Yeah. That's right. Good morning, everyone. I know Darren's listening in, so I have to make sure I try to get us started on time and get us moving slowly. So welcome. Good to see everyone. It is Thursday, August 21st, 2025, and we are opening the SACOG Board of Directors meeting. And if you would begin, Director Baines has graciously agreed to lead us in the pledge.
Salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And Clark, would you call roll, please?
Thank you. Good morning. Director Andreata,
Present.
Baines,
Present.
Boomgarden,
Present.
Bradford,
Here.
Branscombe,
Yes.
Houlihan,
Present.
Chapdelaine,
Here.
Chapman absent, Clark Kretz, absent Clarici,
Here.
Desmond absent, Dowden Calvillo,
Present.
Early,
Here.
Howdeshelt,
Here.
Hume,
Here.
Jennings,
Here.
Jones,
Here.
Rodriguez for Kennedy, Kozlowski, absent, Lauren, Maple absent, McCully,
Here.
Bonnie Rodriguez absent, Sander,
Here.
Schaefer,
Here.
Teeter, here, Veerkamp,
Here.
Vega, Villegas, Vice Chair Gallardo,
Here.
Chair Soon is absent, and ex officio member Aceves.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate having our alternates here as well. And it's good to see, it feels like it's been longer than a month or two, but great to see everyone here. As you mentioned, Chair Soon is out of that town, and so I will try to fill his shoes today. First thing on the agenda is public comment. This is an opportunity for anyone from the public to comment on an item that is not on our agenda. Yeah, do we have any public comment cards for speakers today?
There's no public comment.
All right, thank you. Then moving on, the next item is disclosures. Anyone have anything they need to disclose today? Or any conflicts? All right, seeing none, then we will, I want to do a couple announcements on behalf of Chair Soon. We have Renee Handy, our SACOG staff, come to the podium and introduce our early career interns. Yeah.
All right. Good morning, Chair and members of the board. As Chair Gallardo said, my name is Renee Handy, and I'm the Human Resources Lead here at SACOG. And I also lead our early career internship program, along with the help of our team supervisors. Some of you may remember this is part of our Racial Equity Action Plan, or our REAP work, and the program is designed for students that are new to local government looking to gain that experience and knowledge. We are officially celebrating the wrap of our third year of the program. It's been such a great year. Both interns have had an opportunity to report to the planning and programming team and the transportation team. Before I pass it over to them for them to give a brief introductions of themselves and share some highlights of the program, I just wanted to formally acknowledge both of them for the hard work and dedication. So please thank you to Anne-Marie McKenna, who reported to the planning and programming team, and Catalin Satu, who reported to the transportation team.
Hi, my name is Catalin Situ, and I was part of the transportation team as an intern. So I learned a lot about mobility zones, and I did research on crosswalks. During my time in this internship, I had the chance to have one-on-ones with many of the people that work at SACOG and learn a little bit more about their roles and how that contributes to the team and how it can also impact the community. I was interested in this program as a former student of the SACOG's Youth Leadership Academy, and so I definitely got to expand my knowledge on government and how it can impact and improve the community. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anne-Marie McKenna, and as Renee said, I was interning on the planning and programming team. I worked under Jackie and Miguel on the programming and project delivery team, which meant that I spent this summer learning a lot about the different transportation projects in the SACOG region, looking at how many projects each county had, how much money they were spending on projects, and also the progress of projects that SACOG had awarded funds to. My highlight of this internship was also talking to other teams. I specifically have a background in outreach. I was on Pleasant Grove High School's robotics team as their outreach lead for all 4 years. So I did a lot of community engagement, and I thought it was really cool getting to kind of see how SACOG engages with our community. And I really learned a lot from people. I was attracted to this internship because I did Assemblymember Wins Young Assembly Member program last year. And so I got to kind of get an introduction to government and figured that this would be a very good stepping stone for the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As I said, that we are wrapping up our program and today is their last day. They did a 6-week program and they did such great work here. So I appreciate you taking time to just acknowledge them and thank you for their work. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I love that you both the Young Assembly program and that you were future did the youth program here. You will be sitting in these seats, I'm sure, sometime down the road. And thank you so much for what you do. Hopefully you enjoyed it all, got sparked an interest in public service, and we'll look forward to seeing you again. All right. Well, it may feel like it's just turned August, but it is actually that time of year where we're looking for participants from the board to serve on the nominating committee for the 2026 board chair and vice chair positions. It is fall almost. So if you are interested, if you would please reach out to Lynette by September 11th, that would be helpful. I believe they figured 2-3 meetings that will end up in November, and then you'll make a recommendation to come back for our December meeting. So just remind all that we're looking for volunteers. Appreciate that. Next on our agenda is our consent calendar that can all be acted on one motion. Anyone could remove something if they would need some further information or discussion. Do we have any public comment on our consent calendar?
There's no public comment.
Thank you. And I will bring it back and look for a motion.
Through the chair. Move to approve.
Thank you. Got that. We have a motion and a second. We have everybody here, nobody online, so we can do this. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, thank you. Motion carries. Next up on our calendar is our first action item. It's the 2025 4-county state funding program and staff recommendation. And David Pepe is going to be our presenter. Good morning.
Morning. So I'm David Pape. I'm a principal planner responsible for grants and funding. And today I'll be presenting the 2025 4-county state funding program award recommendations for board approval. So before I get to the award recommendations, I want to briefly review the program, the application process, and the funding request, just to provide a little bit more background and information. So the purpose of the 2025 4-county state funding program is to allocate state transportation improvement program funding to support priority transportation projects across Sacramento, Sutter, Yolo, and Yuba counties. I'm sure you're all aware, but it's worth repeating that this is the first SACOG administered STIP-only funding cycle with a total of $42.5 million to be programmed in fiscal year 2027-28 and 28-29. For this cycle, the board elected to allocate funding across 2 program tracks with 90% of the funds allocated by county. So this is what we call the inter-county share, and 10% reserved for a competitive regional set-aside for regionally significant projects. The table on the right shows that how the funding was allocated between the 4 counties and the regional set-aside. So for this funding cycle, we used an iterative application process, which was intentionally designed to provide more support and clarity for applicants at every stage. The call for projects opened in March 17th, and we kicked things off with a pre-application webinar on March 19th. And that session offered a program overview and tips to help applicants prepare. Applicants then moved through 3 different stages: the pre-application, the draft application, and final application. And at each step, they received feedback to help strengthen their proposals and better align with the program goals. And during the pre-application and consultation period, we received 34 pre-applications from 17 jurisdictions. Each jurisdiction had a 45-minute consultation with SACOG staff to confirm eligibility, review performance metrics, and refine project ideas. These meetings also helped us identify common questions, which we then summarized into an FAQ that was included as part of your packet in attachment A. And then in early May, we received 18 draft applications. These were then reviewed by an external committee of planners and engineers who scored the applications based on local need, performance outcomes, community and partner engagement, and project delivery and readiness. After scoring, SACOG staff shared preliminary scores and feedback with applicants and gave specific suggestions to help strengthen final applications. This phased approach was intended to help applicants submit more competitive projects, ensure better alignment with the program's objectives, and to help them meet the scoring threshold. So on June 6, we received 17 final applications amounting to a total request of $53.2 million. This included 4 applications for the regional set-aside and 13 for the inter-county, covering a wide array of projects from roadway rehab to active transportation and transit improvements. Final applications were then scored again and ranked to inform award recommendations. And so based on this process, staff recommend awarding a total of $40,323,000 to qualifying projects. This includes 10 inter-county projects totaling $36.1 million and $4,223,000 for the top-ranked regional set-aside project. The table on the right breaks down award recommendations by category and county. And so as you can see, based on this recommendation, there is some remaining balance for each county, as well as the regional set-aside. But I do want to note that the remaining unallocated balance for each county will be carried over to the next STIP cycle. So this isn't a use it or lose it situation. And so on this slide, what you see is the award recommendations for each of the counties, including the regional set-aside. I won't go into project specific details. There is a table included in your packet, attachment B. But what I do want to note is that for Sacramento County, there are 6 recommended projects totaling roughly 27.9 million. 1 for Yuba County, roughly 2.52 million. 2 for Yolo at roughly 4 million, and 1 for Sutter. All of these projects are for construction phases. And then in terms of the regional set-aside, the full amount is recommended to be awarded to Sacramento County for their Stockton Boulevard Complete Streets Phase 2 project, which would cover PA and ED, PS&E, and right-of-way phases. So in summary, staff recommends the board approve the recommended 2025 funding awards, approve the resolution adopting the Regional Transportation Improvement Program, authorize the executive director to negotiate and execute MOUs with project sponsors, direct staff to prepare the required Metropolitan Transportation Improvement Program amendments, submit all necessary MTIP amendments, and submit the RTIP and associated resolution to the California Transportation Commission. Approval of these actions will ensure timely programming of STIP funds, advance regionally prioritized transportation projects, and optimize the use of available funds. So with that, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, David. Questions on this item? Thank you. Yes, Director Bascom.
Thank you. Yuba County didn't put up a request, so I'm not home teaming this thing. I was interested to read the analysis of the Sacramento County and Sutter County proposals. And I was curious, when you get to a point, and it seemed rather dismissive, almost to the point of being arbitrary in its dismissiveness of the Sutter County proposal. When you find something that the team that grades these things, when you find something that you don't think is up to snuff, do you ever reach out to that county for more information if there's some uncertainty about what they're proposing? Because again, it was sort of like a blanket dismissal, and it did seem arbitrary.
I'm not entirely sure which project we're referring to, but
it's a railway project where they were looking to convert a railway into an active transportation route, I believe.
The trail.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, no, part of the process that we went through, as I mentioned, was designed to work through a lot of issues or questions with applicants. We went through a pre-app proposal, pre-application review, and provided feedback well before the final evaluations. The intent of that was to really help applicants improve their proposals. So in that case, I don't know the exact specifics, but we certainly did go through a process to work through and clarify different aspects of the project proposals.
David, can you go back to the slide that has the process? And Director Branscombe, what I can say is I don't think we've ever done as much engagement and back and forth with project sponsors at multiple points here in this process. We provided a lot of feedback. We provided like a draft score on early applications. We helped work with staff to figure out how to up scores. So this was all, remember, part of the 2-year funding round, working group, staff, and board overhaul. And one of the things we definitely heard from all of you is, please work with our project sponsors and our staff to make sure that you give the best assistance you can, right? To make sure that those applications score well. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and beyond that, a lot of this feedback we've shared with applicants and offered additional technical assistance. So for that particular project, that's something we can continue to work with the Yuba City on.
And I will say-
Was this intended at the outset to be an all or nothing? You get one winner and everybody else gets 0?
No,
Well,
this
that's what happened, isn't it?
for the regional set aside, it's a competitive process, yes. But they're
If I
depending on
recall correctly, everything went to Sacramento County and nothing went to Yolo or Sutter, which had both applied.
right, but the funding request, the amount of funding requested totaled what was available. So you cannot do partial awards for STIP funds. So in this case, the full amount of funding went to the top scoring project.
So this is important because you spent a lot of time working on this, right? If you remember, earlier this year, we had a really good, healthy discussion with the board. Should there be any inter-county, right, sort of regional set aside? Should it be, at one point, we put out there 50% of all the 4 county STIP funds. And then I think it went down to sort of 10, 20, or even 0. And we had that discussion back to the board. We landed on 10%, I think, as sort of early this calendar year. And so that is a fully competitive pot of money. And then the others go county by county. In the fully competitive pot of money, and I do think this is a very important piece of learning here, Sacramento County came forward with an application and it scored very well. And it got the entire 4 million, right? 4.2. So kudos to Sacramento County staff. Again, we've worked with them and it's a good project. The others did not get funding. Everything else goes county by county. So, and we're very aware, by the way, Director Branscombe, of the UP Trail Corridor in Yuba City. In fact, that's one of the priority trail plan projects. We're working with them very closely. I just met with Yuba City staff. Our staff has met with their staff. So we want to help that trail, that old abandoned railroad right-of-way become a trail, I think, as our director here from Yuba City, Director Broomgarden, knows. But the application in terms of its competitiveness against the other projects just didn't score as well as it needed to.
Thank you.
Thank you for questions. Any other questions for David? I appreciate the clarification because it does look, that was kind of the question I had all as well. So the preliminary applications came in, you did then reach out to the individuals, gave them here's how you can improve your project and your application, and then they had that time to resubmit for the final.
Correct.
Thank you.
Can
I will
I-
open up.
Can I ask one more
Oh,
question,
yes,
just
yeah,
as just a last
sure.
follow-up? On the 10%, did the same level of, because I know inter-county, I'm looking back at you. I know at least for the inter-county applications, there was really great back and forth and feedback from staff, which I appreciated, right? It was one of those things. You turn it in, if it's not great, it's like, that's first draft. And the staff did a really great job of saying, okay, remember 67% is the lowest, right? So realistically, we didn't even have to get a C. We just had to get a high D in order to meet the criteria. But with that being said, on the 10%, did staff also go back and forth on that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. All right, thank you very much.
Yes, Director Banks.
I just like to thank the mayor that comments. I have the same or similar comments. I just asked staff if they could please, they can help our staff, explain to our staff what the path is to it, because it seems like every time we get here, we feel like we're not, I guess, a part of this pot, right? And for those who were with us in the little working group this morning, that I made a comment to where I'm still trying to figure out what our role is in this position, because when it comes to these type of funding rounds, we feel like we're always left out.
I've got nothing against Sacramento County. Sacramento County, I lived here a long time. My granddaughters live here, and it's a great place. The thing of it is, though, Sacramento County, when you're talking about the quality of their presentation they made, look at the resources they have as compared to the other counties. And so again, when you see 100% go to the big dog in the room, and this is with no offense, it's just something that stands out. That's the reason I asked the question. Thank you.
Thank you. Any
Director-
follow-up questions?
If I could, look, this is fundamental. This is really, really important, because we're about to go into a 6-county federal funding round, right? That has to be entirely competitive for the corrective action, again, that you have worked 2 years on. And I can tell you, there's a lot of angst amongst all the counties about how well everybody's going to perform, right? In a 6-county competitive funding round. Our job is to basically is to figure out how we can help, especially our less well-resourced jurisdictions, our lower capacity jurisdictions, right? And we do a lot of that. And I will tell you, if we go back, and we're happy to do that, we did at the beginning of the year, we went back and looked at over time, it's a roller coaster, right? And Sacramento County has raised concerns that they have not done well in a 4-county competitive funding round. Although over time, at the last cycle, that's true. And over time, it actually it shook out. I will tell you, some of the smaller jurisdictions represented by you in this room have put forward some great applications. Some of your smaller jurisdictions have put in very competitive applications and have focused over time with either 1 or 2, used our staff as a resource, not as a wall, but rather as a partner, and have prevailed in that. And I hear you, Director Bings, we do, right? In Sutter County, you did get a funding in this round. You also got a transportation grant in the last cycle as well. Part of our job as our team here, and we're committed to this, is make sure that all of you can write competitive grant applications. Because remember, in the long range plan, all of you are counting on competitive grants from the state and from the federal government. We do not have enough money to say we want to do everything we want to do in this region. We have to compete. And part of our job here with David and Christine and this whole team is to make sure we can help you, regardless of your capacity as a staff, to make sure you can write really good competitive applications, right? And I think we've seen that over time. Our work, just in this cycle, has allowed your staff, where they've engaged, to actually up those draft scores. It's been very transparent. Your staff's been able to see that. But we need to prepare ourselves to punch above our weight at the state level and the federal level, or else everything we have in our plan, we're not going to succeed on executing.
Just one clarifying question.
Yes. Director Down and Calvillo.
Press that. What might be helpful, especially as we move into the 6-county track, is to have a historical record, maybe, because we talked about how it does kind of roller coaster. And so that might be beneficial as well. You could determine how many years back. I mean, obviously the amount of funding available each cycle is going to change. And obviously, 5 years ago was probably less, or could have been more, who knows. But that might be helpful as well, so that we have that opportunity just to see that. So maybe just moving forward, and as we progress into this new era.
And the good news is we have a lot of that data now because you all have been asking those questions. I will say when we did Green Means Go, so I want to say that was 2 years ago now, we had a 6-county pool because we went to the state, we won that money for the region. I know, and I will say Placer County in particular said, this is kind of an urban infill program. Not sure how well we'll do. Placer County did really well in Green Means Go because our staff was working with your staff. When we've done the active transportation program regionally, the bicycle pedestrian program, and we'll give you that data over time. A lot of the other counties have done really well because you've put forward great applications. Because I think, in part, because you worked with us and our team and you've seen us as a resource and a partner, but absolutely, Director Davenport, we can give you that data over time. And I know for Placer and El Dorado coming up in the federal round, let's name it because this was an open conversation in our board funding round working group, right? There's concern, there's anxiety. How am I going to compete against the other 4 counties? But I do think we've had a great track record of jurisdictions, suburban, small jurisdictions, as well as this time, kudos to Sac County for writing a great application and winning those grants. So I think we've had this before, and Director Desmond says that fair happens over time, but our job is to make sure your teams and your staff can write the most competitive grant applications possible.
Director Early and then who?
Okay, I have 2 follow-up questions. One, I just want to follow up on this. I love the idea of showing just the historical trends. Yes, it would vary in amount. I would suggest 10 years, only because usually I would say 5, but I think in this case 5 is not enough. I would also say not only the amount of funding, but the percent of allowable funding for that year would be helpful, just to really get an idea. So just on that, I would echo that. And then I just wanted to clarify, of that 10%, would there have been an opportunity if there was 2 competitive grants to offer, if Sac County didn't ask for 4 million, let's say Sac County asked for 3 million, but there were 4 total or something along those lines, could you have then awarded $1 million to Sutter or another applicant? If, again, they wrote a competitive one. I just want to be clear. So inter-county, that was a possibility.
So yeah, for the regional set aside, that could be possible, assuming that the requested amounts are funding a full phase of a project. So yeah, if it shook out that way, we could have potentially gone that route.
Okay, so there could have been an opportunity if you had projects that, again, would have allowed for full funding of their projects, but didn't take up the total pot to have funded multiple.
Correct.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you.
As long as if I correct that, just the phase is that.
Yeah,
it would fund the
funding a full phase of a project, yeah.
Director Hume.
Thank you, Chair. I just
Oh,
wanted to
sorry.
say that, coming from Citrus Heights, in previous years, we've been very successful in getting grants for Auburn Boulevard, police streets, and we don't have a big staff. We actually have a very, very small staff compared to Sacramento County. So I'm not sure. I think that the feedback that I've gotten from our general services director is that they work closely with SACOG. That's how they're so successful. So I just want to reiterate that I don't think it really has a huge bearing on the size of the staff that you have. I think that SACOG, at least my experience, what I'm hearing from staff is SACOG is super cooperative and good about feedback and how to be more successful in getting grants.
Thank you, Director Shaver. That was my thoughts as well, because obviously bigger counties have more resources, but that's when we rely on the resource that we have here and the experts that are doing it. So yes, Director Hume.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I've been resisting the urge to be flippant and praise staff about how, judicious and intelligent they are in their selections of projects. But I will say I sympathize with Director Branscombe so much I can't even put it into words. Because it seems like every time this comes up, there are winners and losers. The grass is greener on the other side. I mean, whatever cliche you want to throw at it. And I will say that even when the money comes to a particular agency, I look at the projects that have been awarded. And aside from a very short trail segment in the city of Elk Grove, none of them are in my district. And so even within those agencies, there's kind of like, why is always the bridesmaid, never the bride, and that sort of a thing. So, we had the larger discussion about what the set aside should be. I think we've been told fairness happens over time. And I look forward to seeing that data that shows that over the last several funding rounds. But I hear the concerns and I am not here to gloat in any way about how it shook out this time because I feel like we've been on the losing end previously.
Thank you. Any other input or questions? Director Dunn-Pelville, great thoughts. I appreciate that very much. I think that will give us a little historical, especially when we have new folks in seats and as they move around. I think it'll be great. There'll be a lot of asterisks, I'm sure, to explain some of that, but appreciate you taking that under consideration. I will now open it up for public comment. I don't have any cards, but do we have any public comment on this item?
No public comment.
All right, seeing none, then I will bring it back and look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I'll move approval.
Early seconds. Early seconds.
Early second. You got it. Great, thank you. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next on our item is actually our information item number 7. It's our advocacy update, and Bus Shepherd is going to be our presenter.
Good morning, Vice Chair
morning.
Gallardo and board members. I'm Bless Shepherd. I'm the State Government Affairs Lead for SACOG. Before we move into our state business, I just want to remind you that Attachment A in your packet is a federal report from our wonderful DC lobbyists. And in terms of state business, July, August, and September are very busy months for the legislature as they anticipate the end of session on September 12. And we have here our state lobbyist, Chris Lee, with Politico Group for more information. Thank you.
Good morning, directors. Chris Lee with Politico Group. I'm going to start off with a bit of a recap since we haven't met with you in a while of what happened over the summer, and then pause for questions and then talk about the last now 3 weeks and a day of the legislative session this year. And so starting off with a budget update, as included in your packet, on Friday, June 27th, the legislature passed and the governor signed the 2025 Budget Act. I would say for the purposes of SACOG's core policy interests, a lot of the key action in budget this year was really in the trailer bill space. So we did see some good action in terms of preserving transit funding that had gone out actually via SACOG to operators in this region under Senate Bill 125. Those it was about $1.1 billion in funding between the SB 125 program and then the Zero Emission Transit Capital Program, which funds both things like electric buses and infrastructure to drive electrification, as well as an ability to flex that into operations. So as the operators are recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic, trying to recoup some of the losses there and give folks an ability to transition to new service models. And so $1.1 billion for those two programs was at risk in the May revise. SACOG, along with regions around the state, engaged and were able to restore that funding in the final budget. But really, I would say the thing that really sucked a lot of air out of the room were the investments in SB 131 paired with CEQA, so the Housing Homelessness Accountability Program, and pretty broad new exemptions for housing from the California Environmental Quality Act. And then in a companion budget trailer bill, Assembly Bill 130, just dozens of housing related provisions, all tangentially related to the budget, but really a lot of very serious policy changes. And so we included in your packet a summary of both trailer bills. So AB 130, key items we'd highlight for SACOG are RENA methodology. There was a provision in a bill from the Senate Housing Chair, Aisha Wahab, that basically changed the process for HCD's approval of your regional housing needs allocation. This is something that we'd kind of beaten back in several bills over the last few years, but it was incorporated into a broader package of reforms in this long laundry list that was included in SB 681. And then part of the Senate's ask in finalizing the budget was to incorporate all of those dozens of provisions in SB 681 into this trailer bill. We don't think it's going to cause too much trouble in terms of SACOG's ability to get the regional housing needs allocation methodology approved, but we have been trying to get some guardrails around that language, and unfortunately, working with COGS just weren't able to amend that section. The second item that we've highlighted here, which is creating a lot of conversation around the state, is a new vehicle miles traveled mitigation bank. And so if you recall, there was an assembly bill by the appropriations chair, former housing chair Buffy Wicks, that would have created a very similar program. And the idea behind this program is to kind of create a fiscal mechanism within the state for projects that have significant vehicle miles traveled impacts under CEQA to pay a fee into a fund to projects that can be built that offset those VMT increases. And so as we've seen the VMT mitigation requirement roll out over the last few years, we've seen, particularly with large transportation projects, some really significant impacts and a real difficult time in actually finding mitigation measures that are feasible and cost effective. And so the governor's office put in trailer bill language that in some ways departed from the Wicks bill and other ways was similar. And we had some very strong initial concerns with the framework because, for instance, the definition of transit for where mitigation projects could be located would have carved out almost all of the SACOG region. You would potentially see mitigation funding from large transportation projects flowing out of the region. It also didn't really align well with the definitions of low travel, low VMT areas that SACOG has identified in its plan. And so we really focused on understanding that this is an opt-in program for lead agencies. It's definitely not opt-in for developers, but for lead agencies, for cities and counties that approve land use projects and transportation projects not on the state highway system, this is just adding an optional tool. But we wanted that tool to be delivered in a way that didn't result in mitigation funding potentially leaving the Sacramento region. And so those were really the main amendments that we secured to the trailer bill. There's still, an effort. I think folks are very concerned about how this rolls out, understanding that developers really want certainty about mitigation. And VMT is frankly very difficult to mitigate because it's all about where projects are located and what the travel patterns are. So that was included in AB 130 as well. And then something that we've been working on and SACOG supported in a bill last year, much broader in AB 130, a CEQA exemption for qualifying infill housing development projects. And so really for the first time, there is a very clear statutory exemption for infill projects, both in cities and the urbanized areas of unincorporated areas. There are certain new policy riders here. There's basically a truncated tribal consultation process based off of AB 52, but with a bit tighter timeframes that would need to happen for these projects. And that was something that tribal governments were very adamant about. And then for projects that are 100% affordable to lower income housing, or for projects that are over 85 feet tall, it requires the payment of prevailing wages for construction workers and specified health benefit requirements. Again, based on bills that the legislature has passed in prior years. But I think on net, this is a very helpful tool. I think it's particularly helpful in a region like Sacramento, where some of the existing infill definitions just haven't encompassed important parts of the community that are accommodating a lot of the housing in the SACOG region. I won't go into detail about the other provisions there, but happy to answer any questions. But SB 131 was a very interesting bill because they made the entire budget contingent on the passage and signing of Senate Bill 131, which included two key components. First, CEQA-related provisions, a little bit on infill, but also much broader, and then paired that with a $500 million appropriation for round 7 of the HAP program, looking out into fiscal years 26-27. So again, there wasn't an HAP allocation in the 25-26 budget, but there was one, and this was a big ask for the legislature in exchange for the CEQA relief that the governor was seeking, was to get this homelessness funding. And so on the infill piece of the CEQA, basically this one I think is actually conceivably even more helpful for the SACOG region, but the map for the existing categorical exemption, which cities like Sacramento have used for just dozens of projects every year, it allows the Governor's Office of Land Use and Climate Innovation, formerly known as OPR, to update the maps for what are the urbanized areas where this applies. And so that is exciting, particularly in a region where folks have been using that categorical exemption, the opportunity to broaden that. There's new limitations on the ability of litigants to challenge a local agency's determination that a project is eligible for a statutory or categorical exemption. And then there are new exemptions for rezonings undertaken to implement the housing element, agricultural employee housing, extension of sewer service to disadvantaged communities with inadequate service, for Prop 4 climate bond projects related to resiliency, biodiversity, species recovery, or projects that construct trails and parks, wildfire risk reduction projects, broadband projects undertaken by public or private entities, daycare, health clinic, food bank, or advanced manufacturing projects, the latter of which has created some controversy and folks are seeking to roll back, and then the proposed maintenance facilities for the high-speed rail project. So some other good sort of piecewise improvements there, projects that are almost eligible for an exemption but have one condition that would keep them from using it are allowed to focus their environmental review on just that provision. So that's near miss projects. But basically, I mean, this is it's a pretty broad exemption that was included in both trailer bills, really aimed at housing. And so we will see how much that really turns the table and helps us deliver housing more quickly and efficiently. But I think in this region where most of the jurisdictions have been really active users of the current exemptions, I think this opens up a lot of opportunities to give developers more certainty and to get projects moving more quickly. So with that, I will pause and see if there are any questions about budget, and then just give a brief preview of what we expect to see in the next 3 weeks.
Question, Director Branscombe.
Thank you. You are clearly an expert, subject matter expert. I'm interested in the scope of your engagement. And I'm imagining most of what you're doing is keeping SACOG management apprised of what's going on that's relevant to SACOG's business.
Yes, that is what
So,
we pride ourselves in doing.
so it's more information and updating versus advocacy, if you will.
It's information and updating, and then advocacy as directed. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm interested in what you've been directed to advocate on.
What have I been directed to advocate on in terms of generally, or?
Yeah, and I mean, what the top two?
The top two, I would say the things that we are most focused on this year is identifying opportunities to continue providing funding for Green Means Go and infrastructure improvements. And then I don't know what the second would be, other than there's a lot of issues that pop up that we have to react to. For instance, the MT trailer bill.
No, you're obviously a valuable resource. A quick question to James, if I could. How is this relationship managed as between SACOG and our lobbyist, advocate, what have you?
How's it managed?
Is it done by management alone? Is there any board involvement?
Oh, sure. You have a whole policy and innovation committee, Director Branscombe. I know you don't sit on that committee, but others who
Presume that
do.
was the case.
Director Dowden-Cavillo chairs that committee. That is exactly where, so from time to time, we wanted to come and bring Chris to the full board because the state budget deal and the next 4 weeks actually are very consequential, as per what he just ran through. But the policy committee governs all that. It flows up through. So they brief us, we make decisions. We work very closely with the chair and the vice chair. I'd say the other thing, Chris, that we have direction on that he is very engaged in, as are we, is an update to SB 375, the law that requires greenhouse gas emission reduction. And if you remember, the board took a unanimous vote on that last fall to say, this is going to be our priority for 25 and 26.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions on the budget portion? All right, please continue.
Great. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation and Bless discussed, we are very close to the end of session, and there's a long list of items that the legislature is trying to accomplish, as well as the governor in these final now just over 3 weeks. And so one of them being voted on today, something that we weren't anticipating would be on the agenda when we went to summer recess on July 17th, is the new redistricting proposal. So there's a constitutional amendment that would be before the voters on a November 2025 election. There's a bill that provides for reimbursement for counties, and the advice I've been getting from folks who work in this area, if you are a county, they are planning to front load reimbursement for that election. So don't underestimate your cost. The advice is being given is if you overestimate, the money that's left over would be able to be rolled into administering the next election, but you're going to have a hard time recouping all of your cost if you undershoot on that estimate. So just a piece of advice there. And then the third bill is the maps themselves. And so those items are up on the Assembly and Senate floor today on Thursday. Took up basically the first week back from session. The other items that are taking up a lot of bandwidth are the cap and trade program. So the budget deal did not include an extension of the cap and trade program. The governor has proposed a basically clean extension of the program. There are others in the assembly, particularly where folks want to look at how are the free credits allocated to different programs? And there's differing opinions between folks in the environmental community that really want to tamp down the allowances and others who want, for the purposes of affordability, to continue to make those free allowances available. The other component, of course, of the cap and trade debate is what happens with the greenhouse gas reduction fund, so the auction proceeds. The governor's seeking a floor of $1 billion a year for the high-speed rail project, as well as additional funding for CAL FIRE. And so how that interacts with the existing ongoing continuous appropriations and the total amount of funding available is also core to that debate. They did not approve a final expenditure plan for the Proposition 4 bond. So that is something that's top of mind for many members, particularly because it's one of the few areas where members are seeking requests to benefit projects in their districts in this year. And then finally, yesterday, there was a budget hearing in the Assembly about the impacts of H.R. 1, the Federal Budget Reconciliation Bill, identifying a myriad of impacts from healthcare coverage, the state's managed care organization tax that helps support Medicaid, EV tax credits, personal income tax revenue, supplemental nutrition assistance program, food stamps, and a variety of other things. So we may see some budget action to address those impacts, but some of the items, it's very unclear, for instance, on the Medicaid related items, what the ultimate fate of that funding will be. It really depends on some rulemaking at the federal level. So in addition to all of that, trying to wrap up all of the bills, and we've highlighted a few in the report for you that we've been monitoring closely. But with that, happy to close there and answer any questions. Oh, and the thing I didn't mention, and something else we're engaged in trying to secure additional infrastructure funding to support housing through Green Means Go, is there is a $10 billion housing bond that is under discussion. So those bills are both parked in the Senate. We just met with Senator Cabalden's office yesterday, trying to figure out if there was a good opportunity there to provide some additional infrastructure funding that supports housing. So happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Questions? All right. It looks like you've covered it. Thank you so much. It helps so much for all of us to have you be our advocate to bring this to us so that we are not the ones trying to trip through and find the information ourselves. So much appreciated.
Thank you.
All right. I do have one card for public comment on this item. Chris Noem, would you join us?
Good morning, SACOG board. Chris Norum with the North State Building Industry Association. We represent 500 builders, developers, folks in the building community who work throughout the region. I just wanted to highlight on that last very good update that there's a significant issue with this AB 130, which creates this state pot of money for VMT, for vehicle miles traveled. Builders have very strong concerns in opposition to this. Our state association is working very hard on it, but there's a lot of a local angle to it. There's really no requirement that that money stay local. There's no caps on the potential cost for it. A Caltrans study on the affordable housing potential element of it said that it could cost $16,000 per unit just for affordable. In the last few years, I wouldn't expect you guys to know this, but in San Diego, they actually adopted vehicle miles traveled rules that are in the hundreds of thousands of dollars per unit. So there is the capacity for the state to, adopt some kind of standard that could lead to astronomical costs for the industry and pose a significant challenge for bringing housing to market in most of the area. So there's also no builder assent on this. So it's up to the local government to decide if they wanted to direct mitigation in this way. But the advocate bringing the project forward, the person who owns the property, who's paying for all the vehicle mitigation, under the current statute, has no ability to voluntarily say, I want to do that. We requested that be put into the final bill before it get approved, and we were denied that request. The administration is now saying, I thought that was clear. We don't need legislation. Well, we feel like we need legislation to make it clear that that's part of what needs to happen for there to be predictability in this process. If we're going to invest, potentially tens of millions of dollars in doing a project and bringing it to market, having an unknown pot of money that you might have to mitigate into at some point is a real impediment. So there's a groundswell of opposition at the state level in trying to address this issue. In the last week or so, I've been talking to a lot of local governments, and there's also a significant amount of opposition here. Sacramento Transportation Authority, lots of other folks. Our request respectfully is that SACOG consider voicing its concern on where this money would go and how it would be used. Time is of the essence on this because it is something we're trying to get addressed before the end of legislative session within the next month or two. But we're really just hoping to put in place some reasonable guardrails around the predictability of the costs and how it would be administered and how it would interact with your local governments as we process plans. So we look forward to working with you and the SACOG staff on this matter, but I wanted to really bring this to your attention. So thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank you. Any other public comment on this item?
There's no other public comment.
Thank you. Then, as this is just an information item, so our next item is going to be our closed session. Item 8, closed session, public employee performance evaluation, section 54957B. If I could ask the public to leave and staff, thank you.
And Vice Chair Galdo, give me just a minute here to get the tech in order for the closed session.
You got it. I hear your voice. It was
Very good.
that you were coming up. Your patience, we have returned from closed session. I will turn it over to our legal counsel for any report. Again, we returned from closed session and I'll turn it over to our legal counsel for any report in full action.
So thank you, Vice Chair. There's no reportable action.
Thank you very much. Returning, the next item on our agenda is reports. Chair, board members, anyone have anything to contribute? Yes, Director Teeter.
So the next board meeting will be in Wheatland, and prior to that meeting, we are trying to go to Beale Air Force Base. So if you have not gotten your personal information to Lynette, please do that because they do have to get a background check before you go on base. And I look forward to seeing everyone in Wheatland next.
Thank you. Any other?
Yes, I just wanted to invite you all up to Colfax. September 13th and 14th is Railroad Days. We do have Union Pacific coming up. I have lots of vendors, bands, lots of food. We have train heists and train rides, and Union Pacific is potentially letting us up on some of their vehicles, so you have an interactive experience with them as well, so. It is September 13th and 14th, so it's Saturday and Sunday. Oh, and there will be a car show on Sunday morning as well, so we have a little bit of everything. Thank you.
All right, very cool. Any others?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
some of you may have seen a book that I had displayed here. It's a book called An Idiot Abroad. I had the privilege and pleasure of traveling to Ireland and England and Scotland. And it immediately, immediately became that idiot abroad when I walked into to get some coffee, and I asked for a caramel macchiato. And it came this size, right? I said, I ordered caramel macchiato. They said, that's it. I said, okay. It was not Starbucks, but, and I said to James, because I was in Dublin, fantastic, trams and buses and everything else. So not only our study missions, but, when some of you are well-seasoned travelers, I heard laughter over there, Alice, caramel macchiato is that big, not that big, right? Anyway, travel abroad as much as you can.
Thank you. Anything else? Inviting everyone, I will invite you also on Saturday, the 20th of September for Hot Chili and Cool Cars in Rockland. About 10,000 folks show up for, and if you're a chili cook, of course you get to compete, but the car show's probably the best, and we'd love to have you there if you could come. Other than that, anything from?
Real quick, Madam Chair, as it was in my executive director update that you all got yesterday, we have a kind of remarkable regional monitoring report and dashboard. We are just updating that. And on Monday, we will release new data, especially around housing. Here's the good news. We've produced more housing in 2024 than we have produced since 2005. We were at a nearly 20-year high. We produced more attached multifamily housing than we have ever produced since we started collecting data in 2001, and more ADUs. So that's a great resource. I want to make sure we get it out to you. You share it with your team. We've now coded a lot of this data, so it sort of updates automatically, speaking of innovation. And so it's a great resource. Coming out on Monday. 2 dates, in addition to thank you, Director Teeter, for hosting us for the September board meeting in Wheatland at Bishop's Pumpkin Farm. We're very excited for that. On October the 1st, we are partnering with Valley Vision on a livability summit. Stay tuned, but I believe we'd be able to get some comp tickets for board members. Stay tuned, but it's a great summit with a lot of good information. And then October the 3rd, we are down to the absent chair's home jurisdiction in Elk Grove for a retreat at District 56. I think you have a hold from roughly 8 to 2, but that's going to be an important point for the board to kind of get together, really kind of examine some of our work and where we're going, and talking about the concept of regionalism. So October 3rd in Elk Grove. We'll see you for committees in a couple of weeks.
James, is there something going on tomorrow night?
Top golf.
Yeah, we'll see some of you tomorrow night.
You will see, I'm sure I'm going to have a very rough board meeting. I publicly admitted that unfortunately in Rockland, our housing HE has notified us that we are no longer substantially compliant. So Tuesday, and when you are in a landlocked city, it makes it a little bit challenging. Now that Director Andreata has left, I think she donated 10 acres to me before she left. I'm pretty sure she did. I think I have witnesses to that. If not, Bruce will cover what I need, I'm sure. So I'm not sure say looking forward to Tuesday, but every time we watch the news, we all take turns to go, oh, sorry, it's you. Sorry, it's you. This next week, be sorry, it's me. So it should be fun. Thank you. It's a little bit hard when you don't know where else to go. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Other than that, thank you so much. Great. I can't wait to see you in Wheatland on the 18th, and we are adjourned.
Recording stops.